Today's lesson is about the arithmetic sequence, and another name for that is the linear sequence. This sequence always has a constant difference between the terms. That means that if you take term 2 and you minus term 1, you will get the same answer as when you take term 3 and minus term 2. Let's look at an example. Say for instance we have a sequence with terms minus 2, minus 4, minus 6 up until minus 14. Then the constant difference will be minus 4 minus minus 2, which will give you negative 2. You should get the same if you take minus 6 minus minus 4, and yes, we also get minus 2. So this means that we have a constant difference, and we're definitely working with an arithmetic sequence. Now the general term for this sequence is Tn, that stands for the nth term, equals A. A is the value of your first term, plus n minus 1. N is the number of terms, and times it with D. D is our constant difference. Let's look at an example so that everything can fall in place. Okay, we have a sequence, and the question is how many terms are in the sequence. Now first we need to get A and D. A is always our first term, and D will be negative 4 minus minus 2, and that will give you negative 4 plus 2, which is negative 2. You always double check on the second difference as well. Minus 6 minus minus 4 gives you minus 6 plus 4, and that is also negative 2. So we know that D will definitely be negative 2. How many terms are in the sequence? We always start with the general terms formula. Tn equals A plus n minus 1 times D. Term n is our last term. So this is the value of term n, and we can put it in here. A is our first term, it is negative 2, plus n, we need to work out n, so we leave n as n minus 1, and we have to multiply it with d. D is negative 2. It's always good practice to write your D in brackets so that you know that you have to multiply this value into the bracket. Here we have negative 14 equals negative 2. Now we're going to multiply. Minus 2 times n is minus 2n. Minus 2 times minus 1 is plus 2. So negative 14 will be equal to negative 2n minus 2 plus 2 gives you 0. I want n alone, so now I need to divide with the coefficient, which is minus 2. But what you do on the right hand side of an equal sign, you must also do on the left hand side. And then we get 7 equals n. For mathematically to be correct, you always write your variable on the left hand side, n equals 7. Therefore, how many terms are in the sequence? There are 7 terms. A follow-up question. Determine the fifth term. So we need to work out T5. We can start with our general term. Tn equals A plus n minus 1 times D. I want term 5, so I know that n is 5. A we worked out as minus 2 plus n is 5 minus 1 and D is negative 2. So term 5 will be equal to minus 2. Here we have 4 times negative 2, so it's negative 8. Therefore, term 5 will be equal to negative 10. Our next example. Calculate the value of P. Now, P is a variable in our terms. Let's assume that it is an arithmetic sequence. And we need to work out what the constant difference is. We also know that the constant difference of all the following terms will be equal. So, to get the constant difference, here we need to take the second term minus the first term. So, term 2 minus term 1 will be equal to term 3 minus term 2. Now we can substitute the values. Term 2 is 3p minus 1 minus term 1 is 2p minus 3. That will be equal to 5p minus 2 minus 3p minus 1. Now I have to get rid of the brackets, so I have to multiply the minus in and the minus in. 3p minus 1 minus 2p plus 3 will be equal to 5p minus 2 minus 3p plus 1. 3p minus 2p gives me 1p. Minus 1 plus 3 gives me plus 2. 5p minus 3p is 2p. Minus 2 plus 1 is minus 1. Now I want all the p's on the left hand side. P, take the 2p over, then it's minus 2p equals minus 1 minus 2. P minus 2p is a negative p. Minus 2 minus 1 is negative 3. I want a positive p, so I'm going to divide both sides with minus 1. Then I'll get p equals 3. So, we calculated the value of p. P must be 3.